And joining us now on the program, we're having a conversation about why cattle mobility metrics matter. Joining us from Elanco, Dr. Michelle Calvo-Lorenzo is with us here today on the program. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Jesse. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be with you today.
Well, let's maybe set this up. I know we've been watching across feedlot country and more, just weights, steer and heifer carcass weights are continuing to rise. And that's maybe put some of that into perspective for us before we really talk about, mobility metrics here in cattle. I mean, just, how much weight are we adding across feedlot country right now? Talk about that to start.
Yeah, such a great question, a very important one, because as many of us know, right, the world keeps growing, right? So we've got more and more people to feed and nourish, right? And so one way we do that, in a sustainability way that we do that, right, is by being more efficient, right? And so what we're starting to see is body weight and steer carcasses, for instance, are now averaging 941 pounds or 24 pounds heavier this time versus last year. Same way for heifers, we're seeing their carcasses are averaging 21 pounds heavier at 846 pounds this year versus last year, right? So what we're seeing are heavier animals, fatter animals. We're trying to produce more with less, right, as an industry, which is a great thing. But it does provide some caution. And then I like always saying positive opportunities, right, to revise what we're doing to make sure that the end outcome is a win-win, not just from feeding the world and maintaining operational business success or efficiency, but also checking that box on animal welfare, right? Thinking about maintaining a good quality of life for the animals that we're rearing every single day in our precious farms, right? Thinking about the quality of life that they're enduring, because when we get more into thinking about what heavier body weights do from an animal's perspective, a lot of folks would easily agree with me that we need to draw caution, right? Our weather situations are getting more extremes, right? Our hot weather, our cold climates, they're getting way more extreme, right? Animals genetically aren't built to withstand this type of body weight either, right? So as you said earlier, we're going to talk a little bit about mobility. And this is one of the wonderful things I feel so proud to be a part of, because our goal is to really continue providing tools to producers as they're being encouraged to produce more, feed our world, and maintain animal welfare at the same time, right? So those increase in body weights are very, very important to pay attention to.
Well, Elanco's got a cattle mobility assessment program. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit and just thinking about, as we add more weight to many of the things you mentioned in terms of animal welfare and operational efficiency and some of the stressors that could be there for our animals as they add more weight. Talk about some of these mobility metrics and what we need to keep in mind.
Absolutely, Jesse. So one mobility metric that you will find that recently and within the past 5 to 7 years came out for the fed cattle, industry, is what we call the cattle mobility assessment scoring system, right? So if you actually look through a lot of the scientific literature, you're going to find there's a lot of different scoring systems to evaluate how cattle, dairy or beef, how they move. When we think about this, Jesse, moving or mobility or gait in cattle is one of the most basic things that an animal does, but it's so crucial, right? Animals need to be able to move within their pens so they get access to feed and water. They need to move when we have to take them out to treat them and help them get better. They also need to move when we're moving them, right, from one location to the next. And we need them to work with us so that we continue to minimize the stress and help them where they need to go, right? So looking at movement in cattle, even though it may sound so incredibly basic to some folks that have been in this for a lot longer than I've been alive, right? This is one of the most core basic things that we need to continue paying attention to. And so the scoring system that I'm talking about was actually created by the Animal Welfare Committee at what used to be called the North American Meat Institute, or the NAMI organization. Today, they're called the Meat Institute. And several years ago, when the Animal Welfare Committee created this scoring system, it was devised specifically for fed cattle moving from like the feed yard phase of production through slaughter. And I love this so much. And this is why you're going to find so many scoring systems in the scientific literature, because whenever we create these tools, we're really trying to refine and fine tune them for a specific animal, for a specific industry, and even better, a specific phase of production. So a producer that is raising fed cattle can use this and adopt it much more easily. It's not going to be rocket science, and they can gain a lot of value from having their workers or working with their veterinarian or nutritionist to help them understand what their mobility trends look like, right? So that again, everything that's going on at the feed yard, everything that's going on during transport, or even at the packer level, everything that's going on at unloading, at lairage, and walk to knock, everything is going in a manner that doesn't, again, help us gain everything that we've been investing in from the beef production standpoint, but that we're also meeting and optimizing the animal welfare standards our industry is committed to.
And I think about this too. I think this is a great time for producers to consider some of these mobility metrics as we add more weight and we think about rebuilding the herd, so to speak. And maybe we don't necessarily rebuild the herd as big, but we look to add more weight to our cattle as kind of that trade-off, so to speak. So I think now is a very good point in time to think about some of these things more and more, isn't it, Michelle?
Absolutely, Jesse. Our industry is constantly trying to pivot, right? There's so many different factors in the environment, in society, and within our markets that we're constantly trying to pivot. And the more scientifically verified tools that a producer can utilize to gauge, okay, am I pushing the cattle too hard, right? Am I pushing the biological limits of my animals a little bit too much, can really help them make more timely and accurate decisions in making those additional pivots in how they're trying to, put more pounds on, right? And trying to do it in a way when they're also trying to juggle heat stress, right? Or they're trying to juggle changes in feed that's available, or the cost of feed, or labor turnover, right? I mean, there's so many different factors that cause us to continuously pivot. But some of these measures, like this scoring system that Elanco utilizes in this mobility scoring service, enable, again, something that's so basic and so simple that a producer themselves can do it, or they can work with a company like mine, Elanco, to provide that service for them, right? To evaluate, okay, let's do something simple. Let's change our protocol, right? Or how about even simpler? We've had at our loading facility, we've had rebar on the scale. You know what? We're starting to notice that animals start tripping a little bit much. We start seeing that they start limping a little bit once they're walking across the rebar. We never even thought about the rebar because it's been there for 25 years. Mm-hmm. We're thinking about how they move. We know this might impact it. Let's remove it, right? Let's think about training and handling over that. And then something as simple as that, Jesse, and then being able to actually measure how effective that is, and then even show it to a packer if there's ever questions, right? You've got data now that can help you inform yourself if you make investments in a facility, or you're going to spend time having your vet or your nutritionist come out and train people to do something different, right? You have some simple metric that helps you then evaluate, again, one of the core things that we need animals to do, but that also tells us the state of welfare that they're in, right? Their mobility. So this is a really simple metric that anyone can adopt. And then again, it can even lend itself to help pivot in the simplest of things that matter, like our protocols, like our handling practices, and even our facility structures.
Well, I'm sure, Michelle, if folks want to learn more about Elanco's Cattle Mobility Assessment Program, if they reach out to their local representative, go online, et cetera, a lot of great ways to get in touch and learn more, isn't there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Please feel free to reach out to your Elanco representative. You can also work with your nutritionist, your veterinarian. They obviously will have access to this and can reach out to us or other companies that offer very similar types of services, or even at universities are doing this too. And I would say too, Jesse, for your audience, that if you go to the Meat Institute's website, you will find the scoring system. It's a simple 4-point scoring system, 1 to 4. 1 is normal. 4 is what we would call those animals that are statue-like. So that's the more severe end of this scale, where these are animals that won't even move. They're like statues, right? And then all the gray stuff in between. And the Meat Institute also has a training video, so that anyone that wants to train their employees, themselves, or work with outside experts to do this, they can build that themselves. That training video is accessible on the Meat Institute's website as well. So lots of opportunities. Yes, I'm here representing Elanco's program, but again, we're doing this because we want to make sure that producers have access to tools that in our world is a non-compete issue, the animal welfare and improving operational efficiency. So you can certainly build this or work with your local experts to build that for you, and start measuring these metrics, these outcomes, and start informing you and your staff on what you're doing and how you can do it better every day.
Fantastic insights and things to think about in terms of why cattle mobility metrics matter. And we appreciate the time with that. Dr. Michelle Calvo-Lorenzo with Elanco, thank you for joining us today on the program, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Jesse. Have a great day, everybody.